The history of the United States is a complex tapestry woven from threads of exploration, conflict, resilience, and transformation. From its origins as a land inhabited by diverse indigenous peoples to its emergence as a global superpower, the United States has been shaped by moments of triumph and tragedy, unity and division. This comprehensive account traces the nation's evolution, highlighting the key events, figures, and forces that have defined its path. Pre-Columbian America, the land before European contact. Long before European explorers set foot on the continent, the land now known as the United States was home to millions of Native Americans, whose diverse cultures and civilizations thrived for thousands of years. Archaeological evidence suggests that humans arrived in North America at least 15,000 years ago, likely crossing a land bridge from Asia during the last ice age. These early inhabitants developed complex societies, ranging from the mound-building Mississippian culture in the southeast to the sophisticated city-states of the ancestral Puebloans in the southwest. Tribes such as the Cherokee, Iroquois, Navajo, and Sioux had distinct languages, traditions, and governance systems. Some, like the Iroquois Confederacy, developed intricate political alliances that influenced later American governance. Agriculture flourished in many regions, with crops like corn, beans, and squash forming the backbone of indigenous economies. These societies were not static. They adapted to their environments, traded across vast networks, and built vibrant communities. However, the arrival of Europeans in the late 15th century would disrupt these civilizations, setting the stage for centuries of upheaval. European exploration and early colonization, 1492 to 1607. In 1492, Christopher Columbus, sailing under the Spanish flag, landed in the Caribbean, mistakenly believing he had reached Asia. His voyages sparked European interest in the Americas, igniting an era of exploration and colonization. Spain established vast colonies in Central and South America, while France and England turned their attention to North America. By the late 16th century, European powers were competing for control of the New World. Spain's brutal conquests in Mexico and Peru set a precedent for exploitation, while France established fur trading posts in Canada and the Mississippi Valley. England, late to the colonial race, made its first successful foray with the establishment of Jamestown, Virginia, in 1607. This marked the beginning of permanent English settlement in North America. Jamestown's early years were fraught with hardship, disease, starvation, and conflicts with the Powhatan Confederacy nearly destroyed the colony. Yet, the introduction of tobacco as a cash crop by John Rolfe in 1612 ensured its economic survival, laying the foundation for the plantation system and, tragically, the widespread use of enslaved labor. The colonial era, 1607 to 1776. Over the 17th and 18th centuries, England established 13 colonies along the Atlantic coast, each with distinct identities. The New England colonies, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, were shaped by Puritan settlers seeking religious freedom. The Pilgrims who arrived on the Mayflower in 1620 established Plymouth Colony, emphasizing self-governance through the Mayflower Compact. The Middle colonies, New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, became diverse hubs of trade and agriculture, attracting Dutch, German, and Quaker settlers. The southern colonies, Virginia, Maryland, North and South Carolina, Georgia, relied on plantation agriculture, particularly tobacco, rice, and indigo. The colonial era, 1607 to 1776. Over the 17th and 18th centuries, England established 13 colonies along the Atlantic coast, each with distinct identities. The New England colonies, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, were shaped by Puritan settlers seeking religious freedom. The Pilgrims who arrived on the Mayflower in 1620 established Plymouth Colony, emphasizing self-governance through the Mayflower Compact. The Middle Colonies, New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, became diverse hubs of trade and agriculture, attracting Dutch, German, and Quaker settlers. The Southern colonies, Virginia, Maryland, North and South Carolina, Georgia, relied on plantation agriculture, particularly tobacco, rice, and indigo. However, tensions with the British Crown grew. The French and Indian War, 1754 to 1763, part of the Global 7 Years' War, pitted Britain and its colonies against France and its Native American allies. Britain's victory secured vast territories east of the Mississippi, but the war's cost led to increased taxation on the colonies. Acts like the Stamp Act, 1765, and Tea Act, 1773, sparked outrage as colonists argued they had no representation in Parliament. The cry of no taxation without representation became a rallying point, culminating in events like the Boston Tea Party, 1773, where colonists dumped tea into Boston Harbor to protest British policies. The American Revolution, 1775 to 1783. By 1775, colonial resentment boiled over into armed rebellion. The first shots were fired at Lexington and Concord, Massachusetts, marking the start of the American Revolutionary War. In 1776, the Continental Congress, representing the 13 colonies, adopted the Declaration of Independence, authored primarily by Thomas Jefferson. This document, grounded in Enlightenment ideals, proclaimed the colony's right to self-governance and listed grievances against King George III. The war was a grueling test of endurance. General George Washington led the Continental Army, facing challenges like untrained troops and supply shortages. Key battles, such as the victory at Saratoga, 1777, bolstered American morale and secured French support, a turning point in the conflict. France provided troops, ships, and funds, while Spain and the Netherlands also aided the American cause. In 1781, Washington, with French assistance, trapped British forces under General Cornwallis at Yorktown, Virginia, forcing their surrender. The Treaty of Paris, 1783, formally ended the war, recognizing the United States as an independent nation with borders stretching to the Mississippi River. Building a new nation, 1783 to 1860. The newly independent United States faced the challenge of governing itself. The Articles of Confederation, adopted in 1781, created a weak central government that struggled to manage debt, trade, and internal disputes. By 1787, leaders convened in Philadelphia to draft a new constitution, establishing a federal system with 3 branches: the executive, president, legislative, Congress, and judicial, Supreme Court. The Constitution, ratified in 1788, included checks and balances to prevent tyranny. The Bill of Rights, added in 1791, guaranteed freedoms like speech, religion, and the press. George Washington, elected the first president in 1789, set precedents for leadership, serving 2 terms and warning against foreign entanglements. The young nation expanded rapidly, doubling its territory with the Louisiana Purchase, 1803, from France. The Lewis and Clark Expedition, 1804 to 1806, explored the West, paving the way for settlers.